let's actually shift the blame, because if you're blaming LeBron, you've also got to take time to blame like CJ McCollum, Grant Williams, some of these other guys, because a lot of people are trying to figure out why are some of these dynasties ending? Why are some of these great teams ending? Why are some of the, the people that need to pay money, why are they having to suffer? And it's because of the second apron. Now, a lot of people don't understand what that means. It's been thrown around countless times on the TL without any real explanation. But I want to present to you sporting logically.
With Paul George just leaving the Clippers for absolutely nothing, you're probably wondering what exactly just happened here. Clippers essentially told us what happened. They didn't want to pay Paul George. They're worried about the second apron. They're worried about this new CBA. They mentioned it 3 times in this statement. So what exactly is the second apron? Well, clearly it's a big deal. It's the reason that the Clippers let Paul George walk. It's the reason that the Nuggets let KCP walk. I can guarantee you that this would not have happened if they didn't put the second apron into the CBA. So essentially, over the last handful of years, the NBA wants it to be harder for teams to put together these massive payrolls. Ironically, the Clippers are one of the teams that the NBA put this in place for. And so before, the NBA just had the luxury tax in place. There was a threshold at which once you spend that much money on your roster, you're going to pay a dollar for dollar tax for every year that you go over that number, and it's going to get progressively worse when you are in the tax for consecutive years, which is funny because that actually just hurt the smaller market teams. Like when the Thunder traded away James Harden, it didn't actually impact teams like the Clippers that much. So the NBA came up with some new rules, which is how we get to the second apron. So above the luxury tax, there's a first apron, and then above that, there is a second apron. There is a point at which you spend so much money on your team that you are punished for doing so. Couple of restrictions here that teams are very worried about. One, you don't have access to your mid-level exception at all, which is a big tool that teams use to build their teams. You can't sign any players that had their contracts bought out in the middle of the year. You can't trade any of your first-round picks 7 years out. That pick is frozen. You cannot trade your pick for what right now would be the 2031 draft. When you make a trade, you have to take back less than or exactly the same amount of money that you are sending out. You cannot add salary at all to your team. And the one that people are really scared about is if you're in the second apron for multiple years in a row, your first round pick, regardless of where you land in the draft, is going to automatically get pushed to the 30th overall pick. Essentially, the Clippers felt like their chances of building a competitive basketball team because of the second apron were better not having Paul George's contract, not because they're going to have salary cap space, but because they're going to be under the apron and thus not deal with all of these restrictions. And that's why Paul George is a Philadelphia 76er.
Now, sound real. Damn.
That's who we are. We're at CJ McCollum breaking up dynasties. He can't win a ring, so he wants to make sure that nobody else will. My question to you guys is, based off of what we've just heard, especially the restrictions, because I mean the restrictions are restrictive. It's a good thing for the league. It's a bad thing for the league because it's seemingly killing the dynasty.
I didn't know about that. Your pick gets pushed to 30 automatically. That's crazy. So there's multiple teams in the second apron. They're just automatically going to be 30. How would you decide who's 30 and 29? Is it whoever is more in the apron? That's crazy.
Yeah, probably cost, from a cost perspective. And then if there's multiple teams, the one with the smallest amount over the apron gets the closest. But hey, you get screwed either way.
Yeah, I might say screwed either way. Cost of doing business, not being able to trade 7 years out for picks. I mean, I like it. Make restrictions on niggas out here just blowing through money for no reason. I'm all for it. Cool. Not that many teams have made successful dynasties anyway. So it's not like this is a dynasty killer. Hell, dynasties are even some of the best dynasties we know of are only made because certain players took pay cuts. Like the Warriors dynasty wouldn't have been a thing had Steph Curry not taken a pay cut. Him not taking that pay cut wouldn't have allowed them, I want to say, to have the money to get Iguodala, will go out to get Iguodala or sign Iguodala, or was it that led to them getting Kevin Durant, something like that. But pay cuts are important. The reason the Heat were able to come together, niggas took pay cuts. So I'm not really mad at the second apron rule or however that's going. F it. Now, are the Sixers over the second apron now? Because they signed Paul George to a max and then turn right around and sign Tyrese Maxey to a max. So and Embiid's getting paid 3 max contracts, and they bringing on Kelly Oubre back. I would assume, are they not hitting the second apron? The Celtics just paid all they starting 5, $100 billion trillion dollars. Are they not over the second apron? Now I got to see what these people finances is looking like.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and even remotely pretend and or lie like I know who's over the second apron right now. I think the NBA has a ton of not fuck it money, but fuck you money. However, in terms of just restrictions on team building, I have zero issues. I think a lot of times incompetent people get lucky, and if an incompetent person gets lucky, and all they have to do is essentially pay an uber amount of money to keep some guy that they lucked into or whatever, by all means, go for it. So I'm all for this shit. And then on top of that, my fear of this era was going to be essentially 10 quote overpaid players on one roster. So I was fearful of that, the way that this NBA is starting to trend. And it's also going to put pressure on teams to either go all in or all out, which low-key is about to be the trend of the league anyway, when we're looking at these wild-ass trades. But I'll talk about that a little bit later in the podcast. But that's also kind of like the NBA I want. If you're trying to compete, bro, let's do it. Fuck it. Hey, we ain't drafting shit, all right? We are literally second round. See you there. But we're going to have the best team this year and the year after that, because we did just forget that it's 2 years in a row. So, hey, you got time to get the fuck out of there if you want to go draft next year. I think that's going to be the most abused thing. I don't think anybody's going to get that pick 30 rule, because they're going to just fix that shit by the next season. But I'm for it. I'm yapping. I'm not going to act like that I know who's going to be over it, under it, whatever. I do not have that arbitrary number on screen, but yeah.
I think my thing is these rules, the luxury tax, the first apron, the second apron, salary cap, even all these things are put into place in order to give the smaller market teams a competitive advantage, to help them compete in a world where, you're not going to be able to compete with the LAs of the world who have money, et cetera, et cetera. My thing is, at some point, you got to call a spade a spade. At some point, we have put so many competitive advantages in there for you, and you can't succeed. Well, you don't need a team. And I know that sounds crazy, because again, these owners put so much money into whatever the case may be. But think about it this way. Let's say they go back to some bullshit where because they had it this way. You could draft a player if he was X amount of radius from where you are. So if they lived in Greensboro, that's X amount of miles from Charlotte, and somebody gets the first rights to that person, and a new Michael Jordan walks on the scene. If we have to get to that point for a team to be competitive, you don't need to have a basketball team. I shouldn't sit here and have to play down to your level or help you, or you can't draft right, you can't evaluate right. So now I'm putting in a caveat. I feel like personally, for people like, the Celtics or whoever the case may be, Denver Nuggets, in fact, they should be rewarded for doing things right. They did what they needed to do draft-wise. They picked the right person. They developed the right people. They should be able to keep their guys. Fuck a second apron. That shit shouldn't matter. But the fact that we're saying, hey guys, the Hawks are really mad. The Hornets are a little upset with you guys because they feel like they can't get a fair slice of the pie. No, bro. To me, that's lame. I don't like that. And I hope it does. I hope it does go out, because then we'll see things like, I think this is what's going on, Damo, with the Boston Celtics. That man said, "Hey, man, that second apron is gonna kill you in a couple years. You're gonna have to do one or two things. You're either gonna have to bite the bullet and take all the fees and penalties that come with the second apron, or you're gonna have to break down the team." I ain't gonna lie, basketball is up right now. TV deal is coming up right now. Before it actualizes, I'm gonna go ahead and put this thing on the block, man. I'm gonna go ahead and sell this. I'm just go ahead and put this out there. See somebody buys. Because somebody gonna have to buy it, and somebody's gonna have to make a hard decision in a couple years when they are facing these repercussions and consequences. We might see a lot of that in the next couple of years, just because people ain't gonna want to deal with that if you have to put in competitive advantages for the fucking Hornets. I know I keep picking on the Hornets, but you know,
The Hornets.
the damn Bulls.
I can feel that. And I agree. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I agree.
Nah, I mean, what you're saying is just true. Isn't the Boston owner about to pack up? And then on top of that, I'm all for, maybe this is a scorcher of a take, I'm all for punishing teams for drafting bad. I'm not gonna lie. Like, hey, I lived there. The Kings missing every single draft. Yo, there's no way that shit was free. So I'm all for teams. If you just consistently draft bad, if you can consistently overpay contracts, overpay quote quote, which I'm gonna, again, I have a hot take I can't wait to address. If you're just bad with asset management, you deserve to get punished for it, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
Facts.
Yeah. Facts. I don't know, and this is coming from Hawks. I think they should implement a system where like should be an audit every like 10 years.
So, okay, you're fired. Just straight up.
The league has to step in and do something. Like if in 10 years I see that you're blowing it from just a basketball, I don't think it's a good look. I don't think it's a good. Now, again, when I sat down with the guy Kurt from Sportico, the one that was talking about the finances of the league and stuff like that, he was kind of alluding to the fact that winning don't got shit to do with none of that. So the money gonna be up in different ways regardless. But I would like to see teams win and be competitive. I don't want to see them gut a bunch of seats in order to give a premium experience, because on the end of the day, when we close out the books for the year, that's what looks better than having a winning team. Like right now, the Lakers could go next year. They could go 35 and, whatever the case may be, 50 or whatever, 40 something. They could go that, but because they have premium seats, they still gonna make money at the end of the day, and nobody's gonna care. I hate this shit.
Yeah, I'm all for making, front offices, owners in the NBA with high positions of power actually try to win championships. I hope nobody hates that take.